Ashe, greetings, grand rising, a grand day, and peace and goodwill to you all once again, my fellow natural native earthly humans. Yes, you, the earth's organic humans and soulful humans, you, my fellow humans with soul the world over. Yes, you don't know. I am yours truly, the mystic philosopher, and many thanks for stopping by and giving up your time to listen to another perspective with yours truly, the mystic philosopher. Now, the most popular talk and trending topic on TikTok and all over other news media and social media platform and trending everywhere else as of September 11th, or rather September 10th, 2025, is the life and tragic death of this young man known as by the name Charlie Kirk. Now, one of my faithful listener, one of you, my faithful listener, critique and follower on YouTube and TikTok as well, texts me that same day and asks me to share my perspective on what happened to Charlie Kirk. And I told him that enough people was talking about it already, and enough people will be talking about it. So I'm gonna stick to my series titled "The Great Big Black and White Lie Exposed." But now that I have learned so much more about him, and think I am able to offer a unique perspective on him, and also to use him to further prove my point and help expose the great big black and white lie. Now, the truth be told, prior to his tragic death, I did not know a lot about him other than the fact that he was a very famous Christian conservative and a renowned and well-respected member of the U.S. Republican Party. He was a young man who had power or powerful connections and knew people in very high places, powerful people in high places, and thus seemingly untouchable. I saw him as a brilliant young man who loved to publicly debate his opponents, and a very skilled debater, I might add. And oftentimes, if not all the time, at least for the few videos of him that I had watched prior to his tragic demise, he would humiliate his opponents. And to me, that was one of his trademark. I had also learned from back then that he was a young man who was adored by many, especially many from among his own peers. And by the same token, he was also very passionately despised by many. And he was passionately despised by many from his opposition, and especially those whom he had harshly humiliated, verbally criticized, verbally chastised, put down, and mercilessly criticized. Now, since his tragic demise on September 10, 2025, I had learned a lot more about him. In fact, I'm almost forced to listen to a lot of his recordings, his thoughts, his debates, his opinions, his beliefs, his diatribes, and his commentaries on a wide range of topics, subjects, and peoples. And even though after listening to him, I did not and still do not share a lot of his views, etc. However, I honestly still have to give him credit for his courage, for him being brave enough and honest enough to assert his constitutional rights, if not assert his God-given rights, and publicly express them without fear of the consequences and without favor. For to quote the late Frank Sinatra in one of his songs titled My Way, he said, and I quote, For what is a man? What has he got? If not himself, then he has not to say the things he truly feels, and not the words of one who kneels. The record show I took the blows and did it my way. Yes, I did it my way, unquote. That is from the song by the name My Way, as I mentioned before, Frank Sinatra. So who this young man called Charlie Kirk that I am talking about? Who is he? Who was he? Here I'll read out a quote from what I found on Google, a Google search on him to find out exactly who he was. And I quote, his name is Charles James Kirk, is an American right-wing political activist, author, and media personality. With Bill Montgomery, he co-founded Turning Point USA (TPUSA) in 2012. Now, he was born October 14th, 1993, at Arlington Heights, Illinois, in the United States. He died September 10, 2025. His net worth is around $12 million, and that was from CelebrityNetWorth.com. And his spouse Erica Francie. And his education, he attended Wheeling High School and Leadership Institute and Harper College. He founded Turning Point Action, party affiliation, Republican Party, United States. Now, I can both tell you and prove to you, all my listeners, and without a shadow of a doubt, that the late Mr. Charlie Kirk was a Christian in accordance to his beliefs and the faith of his ancestors. But he was most definitely not a white man. And that he too was deceived into thinking and believing that he was, in all aspects of his existence, or his short existence, a white man. And as such, with this knowledge, I am imploring you all, my fellow melanated brothers and sisters, to stop calling and refer to him as a white man, to stop referring to him as white or any of its synonyms and euphemisms. Because the evidence will also show and prove that nothing about him was or is white. Here's a classic example. That's why I'm taking the opportunity to do this. For example, though he might have lived and died believing in his heart and in his mind that he was superior to all of us, and especially those of us that he may have classified and put down on and looked down on with contempt as being black. But the evidence will show and prove that he was not superior to any of us. The evidence will show and prove that his skin complexion was not white and as pure snow. Check the dictionary definition. The evidence will show and prove that he was not a pure humankind or human being. The evidence will show and prove that he was not innocent of all accusations made against him. The evidence will show and prove that he was not a blameless humankind or a blameless human being, and nor was he blemishless. The evidence will show and prove that he was not righteous. And most definitely, the evidence will show and prove that he was not sinless, etc. These are just some of the meanings and definitions of the English word white. And by what authority am I, the mystic philosopher, making these bold and unapologetic statements? Some of you might be asking, or may ask. Well, it's according to his own religions, or his own religious holy book, namely the Adamic imperialists and colonizers' race, history, and holy book, commonly known as the Christian Holy Bible. And as evidence, I'll quote from the book. As it is written, there is no one righteous, That's why I say he's not righteous, if this is correct. There's no one righteous, not even one. That's according to his book, Romans 3:10, the New International Version. And next quote again from the same book, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Unquote, that is according to Romans, same book, Romans 23, in fact the same chapter. No, it's different. Romans 23 verse, what verse was that? Remember. And another quote, 1 John 1:18, and 1 John 1:8 from the King James Version, and I quote, if we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves and the truth is not in us. And another quote I'll read for you, it said, a good name is better than fine perfume, and the day of one death is better than the day of one's birth. Or the day of death is better than the day of birth. Ecclesiastes 7 and verse 1. And the final one for now is that the memory of the righteous is a blessing. I would prefer to say a mooring, but a blessing according to the book. But the name of the wicked will rot. Proverbs 10 and verse 7, unquote. Now, if this book along with these scriptures that I've just read are indeed correct, then how and why are his fellow Bible believers and Christians eulogizing him as if he was righteous, as if he was a righteous man? From my perspective, that is either pure ignorance, pure hypocrisy, or pure lies. Therefore, Charlie Kirk was not a white man. Even though time will not permit me to expound on them, but here are a few more scripture verses that I came across in Charlie's holy book that may give those of us that are still alive something to reflect on. And I quote, the righteous person is rescued from trouble, and it falls on the wicked instead. With their mouths, the godless destroy their neighbors, but through knowledge, the righteous escape. He certainly wasn't able to escape from the wicked. When the righteous prosper, the city rejoice. When the wicked perish, they are shouts of joy. Why are so many people rejoicing? Quote again, when pride comes, disgrace follows, but with humility comes wisdom. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the perversity of the faithless destroys them. Riches are worthless in the day of wrath, but righteousness brings deliverance from death. The righteous of the blameless directs their path. The righteousness of the blameless directs their path, but the wicked fall by their own wickedness. The righteousness of the upright delivers them, but the faithless are trapped by their own desires. When the wicked man dies, his hope perishes, and the hope of his strength vanishes. The righteous man is delivered from trouble. In his place, the wicked man goes in. With his mouth, the ungodly man destroys his neighbor. But through knowledge the righteous are rescued. And final verse, when the righteous thrive, the city rejoice. And when the wicked perish, there are shouts of joy. And that is according to the book of Proverbs 11:2-10, the Berean Standard Bible, or the Berean Standard Version. Now finally, I'll finish by saying, a good name is more desirable than great riches, and to be esteemed is better than silver or gold. Proverbs 22 verse 1, New International Version. Now, from this, we can logically affirm, or from this, we must logically affirm that regardless of how materially rich and wealthy we are, and regardless of how religiously and politically powerful we are or we may become, if we do not have a good name, and if we have not honestly earn the honor and respect of others, even the honor and respect of some of our enemies, and thus are held in high regards, great respect and admiration, then we would have toiled for naught. Our life would have been vain, empty, and useless. A good name should be, and a good name must be our greatest aspiration and our greatest accomplishment in this life. For the memory of the righteous is a blessing, is a mooring, but the name of the wicked will rot. Thanks for listening. And stay tuned for part 27, the continuation of the great big black and white lie exposed. Stay tuned, for I am the mystic philosopher. Ashe, 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 I say.